Here's something nobody ever tells a woman over 50 about hiding her tummy in a dress. It has nothing to do with your body. It has everything to do with the architecture of the garment. My sister, sit with me a moment. Because a woman who has lived 50 beautiful years has earned something the fashion industry rarely acknowledges. She has earned wisdom. She has earned a body with a story in it. And today, I am walking you through 7 dress silhouettes built on the actual science of light, line, and fabric structure. The kind of science that works with your beautiful body instead of fighting against it. No hate, no suffering, no shrinking yourself down. And I am also going to explain why the exact same dress can make one woman look 10 years younger and another woman look 10 years older. It comes down to one fabric detail almost nobody ever notices. I will show you exactly where to find each style. 2. Budget, mid-range, and luxury. Because I know that is the part most fashion channels skip entirely. My friend, if you have ever stood in a fitting room and watched a dress that looked absolutely gorgeous on the rack somehow make you look rounder or boxier or wider in the mirror, hear me clearly. You did not fail the dress. The dress failed you. Because here is what I have discovered after years of studying what genuinely works for women over 50. Most dresses on the market are still built around a body type that stopped being the majority a long time ago. Finding the right dress was never about luck, sis. It was always about knowing exactly what to look for and understanding exactly why it works. That is what today is for.
So here is our plan.
7 dresses. The real science behind each one. Honest body notes for different tummy shapes. And a shopping list you can actually use, both US and UK, at every single price point. I am also going to pause at the midpoint to talk about the one tummy hiding mistake I watch women make over and over because it is doing the exact opposite of what they want. We will get there. For now, let's begin with one of my absolute favorites. The Modern Empire waist. The Modern Empire waist earns my top spot for pure elegance, paired with pure comfort. And the reason comes down to one deceptively simple seam. When I say Empire waist, I want to be precise. I mean modern, not the maternity silhouette most of us picture right away. That difference is everything, and I am going to show you exactly what to look for. Here is the science, and it is simpler than it sounds. Your brain uses contrast lines to locate the waist on a body. Seams, hems, waistbands. The brain scans for contrast and decides that is where the waist lives. An empire seam placed 2 to 3 inches below the bust gives your brain exactly that reference point, right there, above your natural waist. And once the brain finds its anchor, it stops looking below it. That is the seam anchor effect. Your tummy does not disappear. Beautiful. Your brain simply stops searching for it. So when you are shopping for an empire waist, here are the 3 details that separate a dress that works from one that does not. 1. Seam placement. It needs to sit 2 to 3 inches below the bust. Not at the bust, not flush against the bra line. That inch or 2 of separation is what moves the reference point down and away from the chest. 2. The fabric below the seam needs to be fluid. Jersey, crepe, a chiffon overlay. The moment you choose something stiff or structured beneath that seam, you lose the entire effect. The dress stands away from your body instead of skimming gracefully past it. 3. The silhouette from the seam down should be a gentle A-line, not a straight column, which creates a tube, not a wide bell, which creates volume you never wanted. Just a soft, confident outward angle from seam to hem. 2 quick notes, because every woman in this room deserves to be spoken to directly. If you have ever picked up an empire dress and thought it made you look pregnant, that was never you. That was a seam sitting too high, paired with fabric that had no movement. The right seam height, paired with fluid fabric underneath, reads as elegant. Never expectant. And if you are fuller through the midsection, your eye anchors to that seam above the waist and simply never makes the journey down. That is the principle working every single time. For petite frames, or if you have noticed some height change over the years, reach for a T-length or midi hem rather than a full maxi. A floor-length empire on a shorter frame actually reverses the lengthening effect. The midi is your sweet spot. Where to find this style? On a budget, look at ASOS and Amazon Essentials. Search Empire Midi Dress Women, and ASOS ships to both the US and UK. Mid-range. Chico's carries a lovely Empire line, and Boden is a beautiful UK option that ships here beautifully too. For luxury, Eileen Fisher's Empire silhouettes are fluid and sophisticated, designed for real women at every stage of life. The Empire gives you length and elegance from one single seam. Our next silhouette solves an entirely different problem. The dress that refuses to stay put. The faux wrap. Meet the faux wrap. And I want to be precise here. The faux wrap, not a true wrap. There is a critical difference. A true wrap dress is held closed by a tie at the side. It moves, it shifts. If you have ever had a wrap dress come open at exactly the wrong moment, reaching for something, climbing out of a car, sitting down to dinner, you already know the stress I am describing. The faux wrap is sewn closed. It gives you the look, the V neckline, the angled front, without a single ounce of the anxiety. It stays exactly where you put it. Here is what makes the faux wrap so effective through the midsection, and it goes far deeper than a flattering neckline. Did you know your brain decides how wide a body is in under 1 second, based entirely on where it perceives the edges to be? That is what the diagonal line is doing. It moves the perceived edges. A V-neck line creates a strong diagonal, running from the shoulders straight down through the center of the body. Your eye follows that line down and through. It never stops to measure width. It simply travels. That is the Gestalt diagonal effect. Sis, the eye in motion never lingers. And where the eye does not linger, the brain does not register width. Side ruching reinforces it further. When ruching sits at the side seams rather than the front, it gathers fabric away from the center and redistributes it toward the hips. That creates curves, never bulk. Here are the 3 details that make a faux wrap actually work. 1. The V neckline needs to be a true, clean diagonal. Not a shallow scoop, not a soft rounded curve. The angle is the entire mechanism. A weak angle creates a weak diagonal, and the effect is lost. 2. Ruching placement should be side seams only. Ruching across the front draws attention directly to the center, the very opposite of what you need. 3. The fabric. Jersey is your first choice. It drapes, it moves with you, and unlike a woven fabric, it never pulls tight across the midsection when you sit or turn. 2 notes for different bodies. If you carry fullness through the center of your midsection, the wrap angle draws the eye upward first, toward the neckline, the collarbone, your face, before it ever travels toward the midsection. That is the path the neckline sets for you. If your concern sits lower, just beneath the natural waist, choose a hem that falls just past the knee. It extends that diagonal all the way down, creating one continuous movement from neckline to hem. For petite frames, keep the print simple. A single solid color, or a small vertical pattern. A large print breaks the diagonal into disconnected shapes and adds visual width. That is the one thing we are working to avoid. Where to shop? On a budget, Old Navy and ASOS both carry faux wrap jersey dresses with an impressive size range. Mid-range, Talbots for longer lengths, and UK shoppers should look at Monsoon and Jowls for excellent options. For luxury, Lafayette 148 does the faux wrap beautifully, and in the UK, LK Bennett does this silhouette with real polish. Now, the next dress carries more quiet authority than anything else on this list. The one that makes you feel like you own every room you enter. The structured shift. The structured shift dress is the single most underestimated silhouette in a woman over 50's wardrobe. And I say that because I watch it get passed over constantly, usually in favor of something looser. I understand the instinct completely. When we want to minimize a tummy, we reach for more fabric. We go wider, we go draped, and sometimes that works beautifully. We have already looked at 2 dresses built on exactly that logic. But the shift dress operates on an entirely different principle. It does not minimize by covering more. It minimizes by touching less. And there is one detail inside this dress that almost no woman ever thinks to check. Here is the science. A structured shift hangs from the shoulders. That is the key. The shoulders are the load-bearing point, and from there the fabric falls straight, never hugging the body, never conforming to every curve beneath it. That fall creates a small but critical gap of air between the dress and the midsection. And that gap is the entire mechanism. The brain cannot register the shape of a body it never sees pressed against fabric. When the fabric never makes contact with the midsection, that midsection, for the brain's purposes, simply is not there. That is negative space architecture, beautiful, and it only holds if the fabric has what I call memory. The ability to hold its own shape rather than collapsing against yours. Limp jersey, the wrong weight, collapses that gap the moment you sit or turn. Stiff brocade goes too far the other way and creates a box. What you want is the middle ground. Structure with drape. Ponte, scuba, medium weight crepe, Duchess satin in a lighter cut. Fabrics that hold their shape without holding you hostage. 3 construction details to look for. 1. Fabric with body. Nothing limp, nothing rigid. Press it between your fingers, and if it springs back immediately, that is fabric with memory. 2. A clean A-line from shoulder to hem. Even a subtle outward angle is enough to confirm the fabric is falling away from the body rather than toward it. 3. A length just below the knee. The balance point between authority and proportion. Now, the detail most women never check. The lining. An unlined shift in bright light, department store lighting, sunlight through a window, will show every curve straight through the fabric rather than skimming past it, and the entire effect collapses. Always hold the dress up to a light source before you try it on. If you can see your hand through it, it needs a slip underneath at minimum. And here is a body note that covers nearly every tummy type. Because the fabric never contacts the midsection, this silhouette works whether you carry fullness high, low, all the way around, or in a soft center band. The fabric simply schemes past without comment. It asks nothing of you except to stand in it. For petite frames, choose a shift ending at or just above the knee, rather than a full midi, which can read as a straight, rectangular column on a shorter height. Shopping recommendations. On a budget, ASOS carries Ponte and Scuba shift dresses. Mid-range, Chico's and Talbots for extended sizing, and in the UK, Hobbs is exceptional for the silhouette, beautifully constructed and worth seeking out. For luxury, Eileen Fisher's structured shift offers the finest drape, and in the UK, Jigsaw and Elke Bennett both execute the one mistake almost every woman makes. Before we go any further, I have to stop because there is one tummy-hiding mistake I see everywhere, and it is time we addressed it honestly. Can I tell you something that took me years to fully understand? When women want to hide a tummy, the instinct is to go bigger, looser, more fabric, more coverage. I understand that instinct completely. It makes total sense on the surface. But here is what the actual science tells us. The brain does not see hiding when it encounters excess fabric. It sees mass. More fabric equals more visual weight. And more visual weight equals the perception of a larger body. There is a term for this in fashion architecture, the tent effect, and it is working directly against every woman who reaches for it.
Think of it this way.
If you drape a bed sheet over a floor lamp, you do not see a lamp anymore. You see a large, vague, undefined shape. That is exactly what an oversized dress says to the eye.
Large, vague,
undefined. What actually creates the illusion of a slimmer silhouette is not hiding your shape. It is defining a new shape over the shape you already have. That is what every single silhouette in this video is doing. And it is the myth I promised to address. More coverage was never the answer, sis. Better architecture is. You deserve to tell exactly the story you choose to tell. I will share my single top pick for a big event at the very end. For now, we have more silhouettes, and they only get more interesting from here. If this is landing for you, this would be the moment to hit like, so more women over 50 searching for real answers actually find this video. The pleated trapeze. This silhouette takes us somewhere lighter, and I mean that literally, in how the fabric moves. Here's something I love about it. It is the only dress on this entire list that works harder for you the more you move. Stand still, and it is elegant. Walk across a room, and it becomes extraordinary.
Here's why.
Pleats, specifically knife pleats or accordion pleats, do something gathered fabric simply cannot. When you walk, they expand. When you stand still, they compress back. That constant shift between expansion and compression creates what textile engineers call directional volume release. And here is the fascinating part. A shape in motion is far harder for the brain to measure than a static one. When a shape keeps changing, the brain underestimates its dimensions because it simply cannot keep up. On top of that, each pleat creates its own plane of fabric, and each plane reflects light at a slightly different angle. When your midsection is fragmented into 8 or 12 distinct planes of light, it can no longer register as one unified, solid mass. The eye has nothing to lock onto. 3 things to look for when shopping. 1. Pleat type. Knife pleat or accordion pleat only. Never gathered fabric, which adds bulk without any directional movement. 2. Fabric that genuinely moves. Silk chiffon or a lightweight crepe. A stiff fabric in a pleated dress defeats the entire dynamic quality, and you lose both the expansion and the fragmentation. 3. A length below the knee, because the longer the pleated section, the more movement and the more effective the fragmentation becomes. 2 notes for different bodies. For a higher, firmer tummy, the trapeze's gentle A-line from the shoulder creates visual clearance above the tummy before the pleating even begins. The fabric is already moving away from that area before the eye arrives. For a softer or rounder lower tummy, choose a trapeze where the widest point falls at the hip rather than the knee. Hip-wide reads as elongated. Knee-wide reads as triangular and wider. For petite frames, choose fine, narrow pleats at midi length. Wide, deep pleats on a shorter frame create stacking bands, the visual equivalent of horizontal stripes across the body. Fine and vertical is your combination. Where to find beautiful pleated trapeze dresses. On a budget, Zara and ASOS both carry excellent pleated options. Mid-range, Talbots for lightweight versions, and in the UK, Peruna at Marks & Spencer is outstanding for the silhouette. For luxury, Diane von Furstenberg's pleated silk pieces and Eileen Fisher also does the trapeze beautifully. The trapeze works through motion and light. Our next dress works through something even more dramatic. A deliberate optical illusion, built directly into the fabric itself. The color block column. Color blocking, applied correctly, is the closest thing fashion has to real-life retouching. And I mean that technically, not as a compliment. This is the most deliberately optical dress on this entire list. Here is the science. The Helmholtz illusion. Dark colors recede from the eye. Light colors advance toward it. A color block dress with a lighter center panel and darker side panels uses this precisely. The light center draws the eye inward, up toward your face. The dark sides retreat from view entirely. Your brain estimates the width of a body based on where it perceives the outer edges to be, and darker side panels move those perceived edges inward, narrowing the silhouette without a single alteration to the fabric itself. Think of those dark side panels as shadow, painted directly onto the garment. That is not decoration. That is architecture. 3 things that determine whether this dress works. 1. Panel arrangement. Dark sides, lighter center, always, never reversed. A dark center panel with lighter sides actually widens the silhouette instead of narrowing it, and that reversal is the most common mistake with this dress. 2. Contrast intensity. The difference between panels must be genuinely visible. Navy and ivory, black and blush, burgundy and cream. Pale gray against medium gray barely registers, and the illusion needs real contrast to function. 3. The center panel must run the full length of the dress, neckline to hem. A color stripe only at the waist is not color blocking. It is simply a horizontal band placed at the exact area you are trying to redirect attention from. 2 notes for different bodies. If you carry more fullness through the midsection, this is the silhouette that delivers the most dramatic result for you, precisely because there is more contrast to work with. The more visible the midsection, the more powerfully this illusion performs. For every body type, keep one measurement in mind. The center panel should never be wider than the span of your shoulders. Wider than that, and it stops reading as a column of light and starts reading as a broad band. Narrower is always more effective. And for petite frames, this rule matters even more. Where to shop for color block panel dresses? On a budget, ASOS and Amazon both carry a strong selection. Mid-range, Chico's color block line is consistently excellent for this. UK shoppers look at Monsoon, Hobbs, and Bowden. For luxury, Calvin Klein's midi column pieces and Lafayette 148's color block designs are the finest expression of this effect. Closing. Sis, here is what I want you to walk away with today. Every silhouette we have talked about tells the same truth. Your body was never the problem. The architecture around it was. That is the entire philosophy behind Elegant Style 50+, and it is why I will never tell a woman over 50 to shrink herself into something smaller, quieter, or more invisible. Aging gracefully was never about disappearing. It is about understanding your own light, your own line, and your own worth, and dressing in a way that finally agrees with you. If something in today's conversation felt like it was written just for you, tell me which silhouette you are trying first, right in the comments. I read every single one, and I love this part of our conversation the most. And if you want more of this real fashion science for women over 50, honest style guidance, and a little luxury lifestyle wisdom along the way, consider joining us here at Elegant Style 50+. Subscribe so you never miss the next conversation. Until then, walk into every room like you already know what I have known all along. You were never invisible, sister. You were simply waiting for the right architecture to catch up to you.